So today what I wanted to do is I kind of wanted to give you a quick idea of how you can use StatCrunch when you're working on your homework for this course. So right now I'm looking at the course home, and you'll notice there's course documents, homework, quizzes, textbook, recorded lectures, PowerPoints. The very next option is StatCrunch. Anytime you want to use StatCrunch, you can actually just open it by clicking on the StatCrunch link and then actually visiting the StatCrunch website. And when you visit the StatCrunch website, there's lots of options here. You can look up other data sets. What I'm actually interested in is I'm going to select the Open StatCrunch video here. And it's going to look basically like Microsoft Excel, sort of a spreadsheet software. But in this case, it only has those stat options that we're going to use. Alright, so kind of give you an idea how you can use this to calculate some of the descriptive statistics we've been using. I'm going to go ahead and put in the data we used in Chapter 3. And we were using this data set where we were looking at the days until hatching for some different species of amphibians. Okay, so this was our data set 6, 7, 11 days, 6, 5, 5, 11. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my internet browser. I'm going to put those in. So I think it was 6, 11, and what was it? Oh, there was a 7 in there. 7, 6, 5, 5. Oops. 5, 5, and what was the last observation? 11. Right. Okay, so here's my data set right here. They don't have to be in order. It's not really important. So if I want to get things out of here like the mean, median, standard deviation, 5-number summary, those types of items, there's in the stat menu, there's an option that says summary stats. And in those summary stats, you just have to tell it where your data is. So our data is in columns. So it's going to bring up a dialog box, and it's going to let me pick a lot of options. So the first thing I'm going to do is say, well, where's my data? And it's the days until hatch. Now here in this dialog box right here, you'll see a lot of different options. So let's say I think the first thing we calculated here was our mean and our median and our mode. And if you hit compute, it's going to bring up a dialog box, and it's actually going to give all those answers. So it tells us our mean is 7.29, which we already knew from the notes, and our mode is no unique mode, saying that there's multiple modes basically. All right. If you go back in that menu, so I'll go back into my stat menu, summary stats for columns. You can also calculate things like standard deviations. So that number that's taking you guys forever to calculate by hand, you can actually put your data into StatCrunch, select the data column, and then say you want the standard deviation, and it'll actually spit out the standard deviation for you right away. Okay, so it's computed for you. You don't actually have to do all the calculations. So obviously when you come into an exam, you won't have StatCrunch in front of you, so you'll need to know how to calculate standard deviations by hand. But StatCrunch offers you a really quick way to check your calculations, and then once you're really confident you know how to use the formulas, then you can use StatCrunch to maybe finish your assignments a little quicker if that's what you want to choose to do. Alright, so again, all that stuff is in stats, summary stats for columns. Now, I had originally accessed StatCrunch from your course home by clicking on the StatCrunch menu option. When you're in your homework, you can actually open data sets in StatCrunch directly from your homework. So, for example, I'm going to open homework 2, which is coming up due, and on question 8, so I'll pull up question 8 from the homework, there's an example where they want to calculate range and maybe I think eventually standard deviation here, and there's a data table in the problem. So if you'll notice on data tables, lots of times there's this little icon right here at the top right, and if you click on that icon, it pops out a menu, and one of the menu options is to open in StatCrunch. And so what you can do is if you click open in StatCrunch, it'll actually open StatCrunch with those data values already preloaded into StatCrunch. And at that point, you can go into that stat, summary stats for columns, and you can actually choose that variable and calculate the things like, say, the range or the variance, sorry, not the variance, the standard deviation, and it'll actually spit out the values for you, and you can directly input those and then you can take those and put them into the homework for your answer. Alright, so hopefully that will help you out, maybe save you a little time in homework, or at least give you a good way to check your solutions.